Hi, my name is Darlene Tate, for those of you I haven't met yet. And some of you may recall that during the pandemic, I was doing this little series called Film Friday. I did a little bit of film news and tried to bring people in to talk about their role in the film industry. I haven't done it now since, I guess it's been about 2 years, or a year and a half since I did the last one. I've had lots of people asking me when it's going to start up again. And the short answer is it isn't. It was very time consuming. Even though I loved it, there was a lot of research and then the shooting and the editing, and I was a one-woman show. So I kind of put that away for a while, but periodically people come into our film community that I feel really need kind of a proper introduction or an opportunity to meet our broader film community so that people know who they are, how to get in touch with them, and things like that. So recently I became aware of Kat Smith, and Kat represents background talent for Book It Talent, all one word, in Kelowna. And Kat lives here on the island, and she works with background talent. So if you've ever wondered about getting into the film business or what background work is like, I'm going to be talking with Kat in a moment and introducing you to her, and she'll talk a little bit about background work. Also, just a reminder that we are very fortunate to have a few agencies here on town. The best known of the agencies are likely Coltish Talent, with Barbara Coltish running the talent side of things, and DEI, a relatively new but a real going concern, wonderful people, and they also have a background division. Most of the background performers on the island are booked by casting director Jackie Casey, and Jackie goes out to all of these agencies when she's hired by a production to supply background talent. So that's kind of how things are structured. And I think it just helps us all to know who's who in this business. So with that, I would like to introduce you to Kat Smith. So welcome, Kat. I just kind of introed you to the Victoria film community. So welcome, and I'm glad you decided to join me today, and we get to chat about who you are and what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that you're having me on, and grateful for the opportunity to introduce myself and talk about what I'm up to these days.
Wonderful. Now, you are with Book It Talent, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And Book It is registered out of the Okanagan, but you in fact reside here on the island, correct?
That's correct.
And you specialize in background talent.
That's all I do.
Okay. So are
So
you
I'm
currently looking to add to your island roster of background talent?
absolutely. We don't require any sort of previous experience. Any kind of theater work or previous background work is obviously helpful, but I mean, I'm willing to guide people through the process. The main thing that people need is just some availability during the week. Most of the shooting is going to be Monday to Friday. You do get the odd weekend shoot, but I mean, if you have a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 where you can't get out of it on short notice, that's really the only time it's going to be a bad fit.
Okay. And what is kind of, aside from the time availability, what would you consider some of the most important traits or characteristics for somebody that can do background long term?
Just having that flexibility and around your whatever your other jobs are, it's never going to be a full-time job. I don't foresee that happening in the near future, especially on the island. So most people are gonna have other jobs or be studying, and just to have that flexibility is a big thing. But also, I mean, attitude, humility. We don't want any divas in background. Um, and just being, treating it like a job. I think that's really important too, like doing things like not showing up late, not no showing, like those types of things are frowned upon as much as any other job. Like you're still getting paid to be there. So
Right.
to take it seriously and to do what you're asked, do what you're told. You will be directed, like they will tell you what they need. So to be able to listen and take directions.
So your job is in, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's a production coming in and they have reached out to you and perhaps any of the other agencies as well, looking for background talent, uh, you take a look at what their specific requirements are, if there's any specific demographic required, and then you work to get your people to set, and from there production takes over. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's a sort of a high level overview. Basically, I'll get casting requests. I'm working with, I think, 99% of the casting directors in BC at this point in time.
Okay.
So I'll see the casting requests, and typically there is some demographic restrictions on it. You know, sometimes it's just townsfolk background, you know, anyone from like age 18 to 70, you know, you do get those requests, but typically, you know, they're like, okay, this is a high school, so we're looking for maybe like 18 to 24-year-olds, 17 to 24-year-olds for high school.
Right.
And yeah, I look on the Agency Click website. One of the things you need to set up as a background performer is just a little profile on that website. It's what all the casting directors use, and it's what all the agents use as well. And I look for people that are available on the day that they're looking for people, and then I submit them. And then the casting director comes back and says, okay, these are the people we'd like to use. And you'll get your call times, your wardrobe notes. Sometimes you get them a few days in advance, but typically it's the night before.
Now, for the individuals who say have worked with you for a long time, what do you most appreciate with those people that are with you for a long time? I'm assuming that it's something that kind of harkens to what you mentioned already, that you can count on them to actually show up.
Definitely being reliable, definitely having good availability. Like if I see that you're available on Agency Click, you know, I don't want you coming back and saying, actually, I forgot to update it. You know, because the short turnaround time between the casting request and the shoot date makes it really a lot of extra work and tricky to get people. You know, if we've done that first round, the casting director says, I want these guys, it's hard to go back and say, oh, now I've got to find a replacement.
Right.
I mean, we do that when it happens. But the other thing is just being really responsive, because I'm always sending out emails saying, hey, does anyone have a punk outfit? Can anyone skateboard? Just the randomest things, like, does anyone have serving experience? Like I get super specific requests sometimes, and you know, like I'll send out emails, and you know, if you respond to me 4 days later, well, guess what? Like shooting was yesterday.
Yeah. Exactly.
So having someone that's on their email and responsive to either email or text. Like I know certain people I'll text, certain people I'll email to get a hold of them quickly and get an answer to that quickly.
Now, if somebody watches this and is interested in perhaps pursuing background work, what's the best way for them to contact you?
I think the initial contact is great over email. You can feel free to share my email. It's kathleen@bookittalent.ca, all one word. But yeah, email is usually good because, you know, we can go back and forth and answer a few questions. If they're fairly new to background work, you know, I don't mind doing a phone call just because we can cover a lot more ground and answer all their questions that way.
Okay. Now, I know there are several agencies, and yours included, that have different divisions, and you know, and you have the division for background talent. Is there anything specific? I hope this is a fair question to ask, but
Yeah.
so is there anything that distinguishes Book It from another agency? Like if somebody's trying to figure out where they might be the best fit, is there something about Book It versus another agency, or is it just a matter of kind of finding where you feel like you're a personal best fit with?
I mean, I really can't speak about the other agencies. I don't know too much about them. But I mean, there's a lot of things that I love about working at Book It. It's a small team. And we really do work as a team. It's women owned. It's a fairly young agency, but like I'm personally very impressed by, you know, the size and the quality of the agency, you know, just being a few years in. Like I think she started right before the pandemic, so it's been 4 years maybe. I don't quote me on that. But yeah, and we're very inclusive. Like we will represent talent of all ages, all races, all sexual identities and diversities. You know, we're an inclusive agency, and I feel that we really treat people with respect.
Great, wonderful. Now, we talked a little bit about demographics. Do you find, like very broadly speaking, do you find any particular demographic more in demand than another? Like, are you looking for a lot of young 20-somethings mostly, or is it mature working people, kids, or is there a kind of a typical or more in demand segment of the population that you look for?
Currently, it's fake high school students.
Okay.
So that's 17 to 24, 25, 26. Basically anyone that still looks young enough to play a high school student. They don't use real high school students most often because the hours on set are quite long and minors are prohibited from overtime. And for that same reason, I do get a fair amount of requests for children, but like under the age of 18, say 6 or 8 years and up. But they don't tend to use them a lot because of those restrictions. Like they know it's going to be a short day on set anytime they have kids on set. So
Okay. Now, before we close, do you have a favorite background story you'd care to share with us? Either a really great one or a really awful, a nightmare one where something happened that you had to deal with?
I mean, there's always last minute changes that have me scurrying around trying to, you know, find new people. I'm trying to think of a. I mean, I would say like a really, really important thing is just to always confirm receipt. I've gotten really picky with that because I had a really good, reliable performer who does PA work, is really involved in the film industry, and she didn't get the email and she didn't show up. She thought it was maybe just a testing day. Like I had talked to her, she knew there was a booking that day, but it went to her junk mail. So she didn't confirm receipt. And I was like, that's fine. She's got it. She's reliable. I know her. But yeah, so
Yeah,
definitely like, you know, saving email addresses so that nothing goes to junk mail and confirming receipt. Just like I don't need love letters, just like 2 words. Got it. Got it.
yeah,
You know?
exactly. I did have, years and years ago when I first started and was doing some background, I do remember, I don't even remember the name of the production, but they went ballistic because it was 3/4 of the way through the day, and somebody, as one of the background performers, walked up and said, "Oh, I don't know if I told anybody, but I have to leave now." And it turns out they had been in a pretty prominent background position for, you know, something that they couldn't really shoot them. They needed them because they were right behind the star. So that's a bit of a nightmare. So once people commit,
Yeah.
like I've always told background, if you're committing to do background, don't have anything else on that day. You can, because you never know.
Yeah. And people do ask me, you know, how many hours am I going to be there? And I honestly can never give an answer. I
No.
say an average day is something like 12 to 14 hours. But I mean, I've seen people that go after 4 to 6 hours, you know, if everything goes really well, or maybe that it's just a short scene. And I've also seen people, you know, working very, very long days and no, you cannot leave early. So if you have dinner plans, like, you know,
Yes,
either cancel them or you're not available that day. Yeah.
exactly. Understood. Well, Kat, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the island. I'm sure you've already met a lot of our film community, but we have a pretty great film community here. So it's nice to be able to get your face out in front of people so they know who you are, what you do. And we hope to see you down in Victoria at an event or something before long. Because home is Nanaimo for you, correct?
It is. Yeah. My oldest is down at UVic, so I'm actually down in Victoria all the time.
Wonderful. Okay, well, you'll have to drop me a line. Maybe we can grab a coffee someday.
I'd love to do that.
All right, Kat. Well, thank you again for giving up your time, and welcome to our film community, and look forward to crossing paths with you in the future.
Okay. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, thank you.